Welcome to the third part of the Activate Your Life course. In this film, the main topic that we'll be covering is mindfulness, hence the title, Act 3, Being Mindful. In the earlier films, we've already presented some brief mindfulness activities, but this time we'll go into more depth and introduce a number of additional practices. Mindfulness is the ultimate way of experiencing the fact that you are not your mind, because it involves you noticing what is happening in your mind. Before we focus on mindfulness itself, we'll consider some important distinctions, including differences between thoughts and reality, words and things, and to start with, descriptions and evaluations. Here's a really easy question. How old are you? And now answer this question. Are you old? You surely found it very easy to answer the question about your age. How old are you? But you may have found it quite difficult to find the right answer to the second question. Are you old? Why is one question easier than the other? It's because the question about your age is asking for a factual answer, a description, whereas are you old is asking for an opinion or an evaluation. There's a world of difference between descriptions and evaluations. But in many cases, the mind makes the big mistake of treating them as the same, with the result that we often become equally confused. If I see a film and tell someone that it was very funny, I'm not actually describing the film itself. I'm describing my reaction to the film. So I should really say, I found the film very funny. Someone else might say that the same film was boring or stupid. And neither of us would be right or wrong. It's not like that. We're all entitled to our own opinion. There's no truth about whether a particular film is funny or boring, etc. Similarly, if we say the woman is age 60, that's a description. But if we say the woman is beautiful, that's an evaluation. And if we say the comedian is Welsh, that's a description. But if we say the comedian is hilarious, that's an evaluation.
Many descriptions you give of yourself, apart from your name, age, address, etc., are really evaluations, possibly invented by your critical, pessimistic mind. Whether you're stupid, fat, boring, etc., are not matters of fact, they're just judgments, evaluations. Imagine two people, both aged 50. One thinks, I'm old. The other thinks, I'm young. Neither's right or wrong. It's an evaluation. But their different evaluations might well affect how they feel and how they act. If anyone ever asked you, what kind of person are you? You might well be lost for words. However, your mind would certainly rise to the challenge and would muscle in. Oh, leave this to me. And then it would come up with a whole range of evaluations, some of which might be very negative and highly critical of you. When our mind makes an evaluation, it will present it not only as a description, but as a true description, a fact. So rather than just suggesting, you're stupid, in my humble opinion, it would come across as insistent. You're stupid, and that's a fact. So, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm worthless, I'm a coward, I'm insensitive. None of these is ever right or wrong, or true or false, because they are not descriptions. They're opinions, they're personal evaluations, and in this case, cruel and destructive. So don't believe your mind when it tells you what you're really like. Get wise to the fact that it's just making it up. Your mind is entitled to its opinion, and you are entitled to yours. Your mind may be negative and criticise you about lots of things. But you can balance this by being positive about yourself. In choosing which opinions to have of yourself, be kind to yourself, Be self-compassionate. Be your own best friend.
Thoughts and reality. Thoughts, feelings and worries are not real things in the world, like houses, dogs or cars. They are just in our head. If we really appreciated this, we would never be upset by thoughts or feelings. If I get the thought that I might one day get cancer, this is just a thought. It has no impact on whether or not I will ever get the disease. It doesn't make it any more likely or any less likely. So such thoughts don't reflect reality, but they may still bother us a lot. Of course, it would be perfectly reasonable for me to feel anxious if I was ever given a medical diagnosis of a serious condition. But this is very different from me being worried just because my mind has come up with the idea that I might develop a serious illness at some time in the future. Unfortunately, people are often extremely distressed by thoughts about problems and medical conditions that they don't have and never will have. Here's another example of a confusion between the thought of something and the real thing. Suppose I'm shopping one day and the thought suddenly occurs to me that I could steal something from the shop. It would be a big mistake for me to feel that I had done something wrong, almost as if I had really stolen something. I need to appreciate that the thought about stealing just happened to me, and that it's just a thought. Thoughts are only thoughts. We can have a thought and take notice of it without believing in it or acting on it. So I might have thoughts about dragons, but this doesn't mean that I believe in dragons or that I'm going to hide away in case a dragon comes along. So the clear message here is, don't believe everything you think.
Having a thought that just pops into your head is something that happens to you. It is not something you do. If you ever feel embarrassed, anxious or guilty about having a thought, such as the thought of shoplifting, this means that you're making the mistake of confusing a thought with reality. In this case, confusing the mere thought of stealing with the real act of stealing. A thought that happens to you is not a plan or an intention, it's just a thought. And just as we need to understand that thoughts are only thoughts, we also need to understand that dreams are only dreams. Having a dream is not an action that we carry out. A dream happens to us. If you ever feel embarrassed or guilty about something you've dreamt about, you're making the mistake of feeling responsible for your dreaming. But dreaming is not an action you do. It is something that happens to you. We often confuse thoughts and reality, images and reality, words and reality. And the label that we give to this type of confusion or mistake is fusion. We can use various strategies to overcome fusion, and these are known as defusion techniques. Compare these two statements. I'm a loser and I'm having the thought that I'm a loser. The second statement recognises that the thought, I'm a loser, is just a thought. So if your mind triggers thoughts such as, I'm really stupid, or I'm no good at anything, just remind yourself of the reality of the situation by adding that phrase. I'm having the thought that I'm really stupid. I'm having the thought that I'm no good at anything. This simple strategy can have a powerful defusion effect. Another diffusion strategy aims to separate a word from what the word means using a technique known as constant repetition. Simply saying the word over and over again until it temporarily loses its meaning for you, just becomes a stream of sound. You can experience this diffusion effect by practicing the strategy at any time, when you can't be overheard by anyone. just repeat any short word, such as paper or apple or table, out loud again and again for 30 to 40 seconds. Paper, 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 paper. You'll find that after a while, the meaning of the word goes into the background and the sound itself comes to dominate. This constant repetition diffusion strategy can also be used to neutralize words that we find very distressing, words that for us are poisonous words. Guidance on how to use this method to diffuse poisonous words is provided in the activity pack that you can download from the website. Remember the old saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Is there any truth in what's being said here? Well, the first line is right, of course. Sticks and stones can break your bones. But what about the second line? Are people ever hurt by words? Oh yes, they certainly are. But although sticks and stones can hurt you whatever you think about them, words will only hurt you if you forget that they're just words and believe that they are real. If you appreciate that words are just sounds or just marks on paper, and you simply accept them as that, then it is true that words will never hurt you.
Remember that the confusion mind makes between words and reality is just one example of fusion. Another form of fusion involves confusing the image of an object with the object itself. An example of this would be feeling hungry or salivating when we see a picture of some delicious food. In such a case, we'd be reacting to a printed image or to an image on the screen as if it were real food, as if it were edible. Fusion can also involve confusion between what is going on in our mind and external reality. And we often make the big mistake of confusing me and my mind. Remember the key message of Activate Your Life. You are not your mind. The ultimate defusion activity is mindfulness. Mindfulness involves the person noticing their thoughts and feelings as separate from themselves. We will shortly introduce a number of mindfulness practices, but we'll start with a defusion activity called Floating Leaves on a Moving Stream. This technique involves you actively, but in a very gentle way, separating yourself from your thoughts. With a little practice, you'll be able to use this technique to reduce the distress caused by particular thoughts and feelings. This activity won't stop you having unwanted thoughts, and it won't make them go away, but it will help you to respond to unwanted thoughts and feelings in such a way that they are less upsetting. So, let's begin this activity. Floating leaves on a moving stream. Get into a comfortable position and gently close your eyes if you're happy to do so. Now imagine that you are sitting on the bank of a river, watching the water slowly flowing downstream. Imagine that it's a warm, sunny day, that you are alone and that you are calm and relaxed as you watch the river gently passing by. And as you're watching this, you notice that there are some tall trees slightly upstream and that occasionally a large leaf drops from one of the trees and slowly glides through the air until it settles on the surface of the water. And then the river carries the leaf gently downstream. Watch this happen. Watch as the leaf drops into the water, slowly travels past you before being carried further downstream until it disappears from view. As you imagine this scene, various thoughts may occur to you. You may have memories of past events or thoughts about the future. Some of these thoughts may be worrying or happy or sad. When a particular thought catches your attention, imagine placing it on a leaf that's floating downstream. Transfer the thought directly onto the leaf, as an image may be, or perhaps as a word or message written on the leaf. So remain in that settled position, there on the riverbank, watching the leaves pass by. If a thought occurs to you, gently place it on a leaf and watch as the leaf carries it downstream and eventually passes out of sight. Let things happen naturally as you notice what's going on. If no leaves come or if a leaf disappears, just notice. If you are distracted by a noise or by a feeling in your body, just notice that too and let it pass. If at any time you're distracted from the activity, gently bring yourself back to the riverbank and the river flowing by. So now let's spend another minute or so doing this activity in silence. Imagine the scene, the riverbank, the river, the trees, the occasional falling leaf, and you placing an image, thought or feeling on one of the floating leaves. And now, at your own pace, gradually and gently bring yourself back into the room and focus your attention on your immediate surroundings. I wonder how you found this activity. It's worth practicing this regularly and spending a longer time on the imaginary riverbank, perhaps as long as 10 to 15 minutes. Floating leaves on a moving stream can be a very useful way of distancing yourself from distressing thoughts, images and feelings, and over time you may really benefit from this simple but powerful defusion activity.
Being mindful. Many of our actions are mindless, and generally this isn't a problem. It's a good job that we don't usually have to think about our breathing or about how to move our legs when we walk. These things are generally automatic. They run on autopilot. Once we have learnt to walk, to read and to drive, we don't have to think about how to perform such actions. We just do them. Our mind does them automatically. But many of the things we do involve us paying attention, thinking carefully and working things out. In other words, being mindful. There are two ways of being mindful. If you were buying a bike, for example, you would think about it very carefully. What's the price? Is it the right size? How many gears does it have? Does it have good brakes? You would never buy a bike mindlessly without thinking about it. You'd weigh things up and then make a careful decision. You'd do it mindfully. So, working things out, weighing things up, thinking ahead, making judgments and deliberate choices and decisions is one way of being mindful. But another different way of being mindful is what we call mindfulness. This involves just noticing what is going on, not deliberately thinking about things, making judgments or working things out, but just noticing what is happening at the present moment, right here and now. When you practice mindfulness, you may focus on something that's going on out there, such as waves on the seashore, or your focus may be internal, so that you notice thoughts or bodily sensations. Mindfulness doesn't involve you changing your mind or changing what you think, but it does involve changing how you respond to your thoughts and feelings, so that you simply notice your mental processes in a gentle, curious, detached way. Attending to your thoughts and feelings in this way keeps you focused in the present moment, just noticing means that you don't try to alter or control what is happening. You simply notice without making any effort. When practicing mindfulness, you notice and accept what is happening without engaging in any judgment or evaluation. So when a thought comes along, you aren't concerned about whether it is true or false, appropriate or inappropriate. You just don't go there. Mindfulness helps us to understand that all our thoughts and feelings, including those that annoy or frighten us, are just brief events. They soon go away. Don't make the mistake of thinking of mindfulness as principally a relaxation technique. You may be relaxed when you practice mindfulness, but you could just as well be active and tense, for example, if you're practicing a martial art. Equally, mindfulness is not a state like a trance or hypnosis. Mindfulness is not a state of mind. It's the activity of just noticing what's going on, inside and out, in a gentle, curious, detached way.
Before telling you more about mindfulness, we'll engage in a short mindfulness activity. This is a simple, brief body focus. And because it's just a brief demonstration, I'm going to ask you just to focus your attention on one part of your body. In this case, your left hand. Get into a comfortable position and close your eyes if you're happy to do that. Bring your attention to your left hand, making sure that it's in a position that you'll be able to hold comfortably for the next 2 to 3 minutes. When you're settled, begin to focus on any sensations you can feel in this hand, and just focus on these sensations for a little while. Maybe you can sense some warmth or coldness in your left hand. Maybe there's a hint of discomfort or strain or numbness. Maybe you can feel a slight tingling or a small tremor. While focusing on your left hand, you might also become aware of sensations from other parts of your body, especially as I've now mentioned this. If any thoughts arise, just notice them and allow them to be there. Before long, they'll simply fade away. And so now, for a short while, focus on any sensation that you can feel in your left hand. And now, at your own pace, gradually end this activity and come back into the room or space that you're in.
Mindfulness has been practiced for 3,000 years. It has strong links with many different religious and spiritual traditions, especially Eastern, and it's also an aspect of many martial arts. Over the past 20 years, mindfulness has been used more and more in the West, in physical health, in mental health, in schools, in personal training, in sport, and in work contexts. Mindfulness has been increasingly recognised for its power to reduce the suffering generated by physical pain and emotional distress. So mindfulness is now used in many pain clinics and is a crucial element in several approaches to psychological therapy, including ACT. We'll take a little time now to engage in another brief mindfulness practice. This is the 3-minute breathing space. You can use this activity as a convenient way of practicing mindfulness as a part of your daily routine. It can provide a breathing space within a busy day. And it can help if you are feeling distressed at any time or if are having disturbing thoughts or feelings. There are 3 stages to this activity, each lasting around a minute, and I'll describe each of them before we begin. In the first stage, you simply notice any thoughts, feelings, and sensations that are happening for you at the moment. In the second stage, you just focus on your breathing and notice all of the physical sensations that arise as you breathe in and breathe out. And in the third and final stage, you widen the focus of your attention so that you become aware of all the sensations coming from every part of your body. So now, I'll guide you through this brief activity. First, get into a relaxed position. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing this, and relax your shoulders. As thoughts, images, and feelings arise, just notice them and let them naturally fade. Just let this happen for a short while. Simply notice any thought or feeling that arises. And now, gradually, bring your attention to focus on your breathing. Notice the movements of your chest as you breathe in and out, and notice the sensations as the air passes in and out of your body. Breathe naturally without attempting to control your breathing or change it in any way. Just keep your attention focused on your breathing. Notice every part of the cycle as you breathe in and you breathe out, and maintain this focus for a short while. And now, broaden the focus of your attention so that you become aware of any sensation coming from any part of your body. Notice any variation in temperature across the different parts of your body. Can you feel any discomfort anywhere? Can you feel any tension? Or is there any numbness perhaps, or any slight tingling? Notice any physical sensation coming from contact with your clothes. Just notice any bodily sensation and continue doing this for a short while. And now, at your own pace, gradually open your eyes and come back into your physical environment.
Mindfulness and sleep. When we can't sleep at night, we may lie in bed and try very hard to get to sleep. But trying very hard may keep us awake. On the other hand, if we accept that we're awake and stop trying to get to sleep, we may really relax. And if that happens, guess what? We may well fall asleep. People who regularly practice mindfulness often sleep for a shorter time, but feel refreshed and alert when they wake up. So mindfulness seems to provide some of the benefits that people normally get when they have a good night's sleep. So, if you're awake when you don't want to be, it's good to practice mindfulness. This may de-stress you and help you sleep. And if it doesn't, then you may get some of the benefits from mindfulness that you would get from being asleep. So either way, you win. practicing mindfulness. One context for practicing mindfulness is meditation, but mindfulness can also be practiced in many other, less formal ways. Almost anything can be done mindfully. There are many quick and easy ways of adding a little mindfulness to your life, and if you practice these regularly, they can do you a power of good. Informal mindfulness activities include mindful walking, mindful stretching, mindfully watching waves on the shore, mindfully watching clouds moving, mindfully standing in a queue, mindfully drinking a glass of water. Have you ever spent time watching clouds move across the sky? Noticing fish swimming in a fish tank? Watching raindrops trickling down a window? Just looking at the stars in the night sky? Any of these activities of just noticing could count as an informal mindfulness activity. We can do a similar activity now. The screen will soon be filled with lots of pictures of bubbles, and they'll gradually pop until none of the bubbles is left. As an informal mindfulness activity, simply notice what is happening on the screen.
What's good about mindfulness? People who practice mindfulness regularly may gain many benefits, including lower levels of stress, a greater sense of calm, fewer depressing thoughts, and improved concentration. They may also experience less suffering when they're in pain, heightened awareness of their body, better sleep, and increased creativity. And regular mindfulness practice is also associated with less impulsiveness and greater self-control, with increased compassion and self-compassion. With so many potential benefits to be gained from the regular practice of mindfulness, we hope that you will explore this as a possible way of having a less stressful, more rewarding, and more fulfilling life.
Mindful colouring. Colouring books for adults are now very popular, and they're often sold as mindfulness colouring books. Colouring a picture can be a mindfulness activity, but it isn't always. Mindfulness isn't about what you do, it's about how you do things. When you colour a picture mindfully, you are completely focused on what's happening right now. On the colouring activity, on the picture itself, and on any thoughts or feelings that happen to come along. Colouring a picture mindfully involves noticing the sensations coming from each of your senses. Notice the texture and colour of the paper, the shape of the printed lines, and the colours of the crayons or pencils you are using. Notice the sensations coming from the muscles in your arm and your wrist. Listen to any sounds And notice your thoughts as you see the picture changing and as you choose each colour and decide which part of the picture to work on next.
Mindful activities. This time, we're suggesting some further mindfulness activities that you might wish to practice in your own time. These are the raisin, mindful listening to silence, and mindful focus on physical support. And we also include the diffusion technique, floating leaves on a moving stream. Detailed instructions on all of these are given in the downloadable activity pack, but we'll also give a brief introduction to each of these now. First, the raisin. This involves very slowly noticing all of the sensations related to a raisin. Take a raisin and look at it from each aspect, spending at least a minute doing this. Look at the colour, the surface, noticing how the raisin looks different as you move it and as it catches the light at different angles. Then feel the texture, noticing every sensation, and find out whether the raisin has any smell. When you've focused on all of these sensations, slowly put the raisin into your mouth. Hold it in your mouth for a while, slowly exploring it with your tongue. Keep doing this for at least a minute before eventually you slowly and gently nibble at it. Again, noticing all of the sensations that arise. Savour the tastes, the flavours, and notice the textures as you slowly bite in. The second mindfulness activity is listening to silence. Even when it's silent, it's not really silent. There are always sounds. If you listen carefully, you will always be able to hear things. Settle down somewhere where it seems to be almost silent and just spend a minute or so listening to any background sounds. Listen, tune in, and really listen. This is one of those activities that you can do as you go about your everyday routine. Wherever you are, and especially when it appears to be silent, you can tune in to the background sounds, the ambient sounds, and really listen to them. There are so many sounds we never really notice until we make an effort to notice them. The next mindful activity is also something you can do wherever you are and at any time, so you could do this several times a day. Mindful focus on physical support involves noticing the sensations associated with whatever is giving you physical support at that moment. At every single moment, wherever you are, whether you're standing, sitting, lying down, you are being held up by the chair you are sitting on, or the sofa or bed carrying your weight, or the ground beneath your feet. We are hardly ever aware of the sensations related to whatever is supporting us or holding us up. But as a mindful activity, we can always tune in to the sensations in whichever parts of our body are being supported. If you are standing, feel the sensations from the ground beneath your feet. If you are sitting, feel the sensations from the chair you are sitting on. If you are lying down, feel sensations from the sofa or bed carrying your weight. Finally, there's floating leaves on a moving stream. Imagine sitting on a riverbank, watching the water flowing by. Occasionally, a large leaf drops onto the river, and you can gently place any thought or feeling on the leaf, and then watch as it slowly floats away. You can continue doing this activity for a restful 10 minutes or so.
We'll end this session with 2 brief live mindfulness activities. We'll show you, one after the other, 2 pictures that will gradually change in colour. Just focus your attention on the pictures and notice how the colours slowly change. So that brings us to the end of the third film of the Activate Your Life course. And we hope that you'll go on to complete the course by watching the final film in the series, which is Activate Your Life, Act 4, Living Wisely, Living Well. This final film will focus on the very important issue of personal values. What's important to you? And what do you really care about? And crucially, how can you live your life so that your actions are in line with your personal values? That's vitally important because making a commitment to act in accordance with your values and then keeping to that commitment will allow you to feel that your life is on track and that you're doing the very best that you can do. Act 4, Living Wisely, Living Well, is available from the website at any time. But before you watch it, it's probably worth waiting a little while to let the ideas and messages from this film sink in first, and also to give yourself time to practice some of the extra activities that we've suggested. But we do hope that you will watch the final film soon, perhaps in a few days' time. And of course, you can also watch any of the films again at any time to refresh your memory of the ideas and the strategies that we've been introducing throughout the course. Thank you for watching. See you next time.